Best of r/entitled parents episode 87. Subscribe for Reddit videos daily. This story happened back in 1990 and still disturbs me to this day. It's a long TL. Doctor at the end. Cast, EM, EK, Emmy and LB, little brother. Setup. This takes place when I was 15 and my little brother, LB, was 13, so apologies I forgot some parts. Our youth. It was a sunny summer day in June. The schools had freed all their prisoners from bondage just a week earlier. The sun was shining, it was warm outside and all the horrors of school were a memory. I lived in a subdivision, RIP Neil Peart, that had hundreds of houses. Each one was a copy of the others. Each subdivision connected to another. My particular neighborhood had 3-mile-long streets full of houses, with the middle street leading to the next subdivision where the houses got a little bigger and there was a hospital, a nursing home my mom worked at, and 6 or 7 large apartment buildings, and the streets led to one of the main roads in our city, where a party store sat. For those who don't know what a party store is, it's just a neighborhood store that sold pop/soda/coke, depending on your location, and the U.S. snacks, beer and liquor, lottery and a few miscellaneous goods. It was the place kids liked to frequent because it was close by and it had a few actual arcade games. Back when Nintendo had just came out, the subdivisions had a few parks scattered throughout, but most kids chose to hang out at a party store instead. Now this particular party store was about 3 miles from my house, a nice bike ride distance. The story: on this day my little brother wanted to go to the party store because they had just got the Mortal Kombat arcade game. Party stores around our subdivision were owned by a large Chaldean, Google it, family who would get arcade games and rotate them through their stores. My little brother was determined to beat Mortal Kombat and would blow his entire allowance playing game after game trying to beat it. He eventually did. He kept bugging my mom to give him a ride to the store and to be dropped off. My mom, busy finishing cooking dinner and getting ready for work, told him to ask me if I would go with him. I was just beginning to shut down my BBS again, Google it, for maintenance when he came and asked me. I agreed to ride bikes with him to the store and back so he could blow his money on Mortal Kombat. It was a nice day and I had nothing better to do. The bike ride there was pleasant as we weaved through the subdivision, stopping to talk to the occasional friend who was outside. We got to the party store and my LB instantly ran in after dropping his bike to the side of the door of the party store. I put up my kickstand and walked in to see my brother already stacking his quarters on the game. About 30 minutes later he was finished and still not closer to beating the game. He asked me to loan him money. I told him I couldn't because I was saving up for a SSD drive for my computer at the time, but I bought us both a bottle of pop. It was a consolation prize. We stood outside drinking them as we prepared for the ride home. After we finished we jumped on our bikes and headed home. Now this was about 3:45 p.m. and my mom worked at a nursing home that was next to the hospital we would ride past on the way home. You could probably ask mom for some money if we catch her before she has to work. Her shift started at 4 p.m. LB, hurry up or we will miss her. My mom and her co-workers would sit outside the nursing home at a picnic table on nice days and gossip and smoke before their shift would start. My little brother knew this, so he was booking it because he knew he couldn't bother her while she was working unless it's an emergency. I sped up as we got on the bike path that took us past the hospital and nursing home to catch up to my brother. Now, this bike path was clearly marked and followed the street, and as it passed the hospital and nursing home there was an entrance/exits to parking lots for both that the bike path crossed. Both had a stop sign for the cars that were exiting the hospital and nursing home and entering the subdivision, where the speed limit was 15 by the hospital but went to 25 in the subdivision. As we were crossing the hospital exit that led into the subdivision, a land yacht driven by, guess who, pulls out and smashes into my little brother, which hurled him off his bike and into the street about 15 feet in front of the now stopping car. I was a few feet behind my brother and hit her fender, sending me over the hood to the passenger side. Note, she only hit her brakes after she hit my brother. Dazed, I slowly got up to see EK yelling at EM. EK looked to be about 9 or 10, a few years younger than my LB. EK, frantically, hurry, we're going to be late. EM, agitated, IAAM. Hold on dear. EM jumped out of her vehicle and quickly waddled to my brother, who was laying on his back in the road. I am stumbling towards him with what I thought was sweat running down the back of my head. EM grabs LB by the hand and begins jerking him off the ground, which made him scream in pain and begin to ugly cry. I hobble to my brother and slide his arm over my shoulder as I try to hold him up. EK is still yelling at EM to hurry up from the front seat of the car. EM has hurriedly began yanking my brother's now mangled bike out from the front of her car's front bumper and drags it over and tossed it on top of my bike that was laying on the path next to her car. EK, still seated in the car, whining loudly, "We're going to miss it. Hurry up, EM, we won't, dear." My brother has a set of lungs on him and is now screaming and crying as I am trying to hold him up. Me, to LB, "Are you okay?" He just continued to scream and cry. I knew it was bad if he couldn't answer. My ears are ringing and my head is throbbing at this point. What I didn't notice is that my mom and her co-workers heard my brother's screams. The picnic table was about 300 feet away behind parked cars and trucks, and were running through the parking lot towards us but couldn't see what happened or who was involved because of the cars in the parking lot. EK, whining, "Let's go already, we're gonna miss it." EM, out of breath as she climbs in, "We're going. You won't miss it." EM was already inside her car, which she never turned off, and swerved around me and my brother to speed away through the subdivision. Just then I could see my mom and two of her co-workers emerge from behind a truck in the parking lot, running full sprint at us. My brother's cries maintained the same volume, enough so that some people were coming out of their houses to see what was going on. Mom, tears in eyes, "What happened?" Me, "A car hit us and she drove away." I could hear an ambulance siren as it comes speeding through the hospital parking lot towards us. One of my mom's co-workers pointed out that I am bleeding from the head as my mom is frantically checking me and LB over. The ambulance screeches to a stop as two EMTs rush a gurney to my brother to lay him down, which only make his scream more. One of them points out my brother has a fractured leg as the other is walking me to the ambulance behind my brother who's on the gurney. It felt like the whole accident and ambulance only took less than 5 minutes to happen. Me and my brother and mom are rushed to the hospital. Mom was furious and kept prodding me for details as they were stitching my head. As I described the car and the woman, one of the nurses said that it sounded just like Karen, a nurse who works there that just left to take her son to a birthday party. The police were there shortly after I got my stitches finished, asking me if she said anything. I told them not to us, not that I remember. She was talking to EK who kept saying they would be late. My head was aching something awful. My mom looked at me with a sense of relief and went to check on my brother as the police asked me more questions. She wasn't with my brother at the time because the doctors whisked him off to get an x-ray as soon as we were inside. So I ended up with 11 stitches in my head and spending the night in the hospital, while my brother got to go home with my mom and a new cast for his broken femur. One of the nurses who felt bad about the accident and knew Karen had given my mom Karen's number, who my mom called after she got home with my brother. Now this conversation was told to me by my brothers and my dad and mom because I was still in the hospital. "Mom, is this Karen?" EM, "Yes it is. Who is this?" Her tone was like she was talking to an old friend. "Mom, this is the mother of the 2 kids you hit today." EM, calm and still friendly, "Hi. So how are they doing?" "Mom, why the F at K did you hit them and leave?" EM, very matter-of-factly, "Oh, I had to get EK to his cousin's birthday party at Robot Gorilla Pizza Place. He didn't want to be late." Now, from what I was told it was at this point my mom unleashed a slew of bad words and several physical threats. Several neighbors could hear her. Then EM just hung up on her, not wanting to be berated and threatened on the phone. My dad calmed mom down and they contacted a lawyer the next morning. The fallout. The police did catch up with EM who lived in a very rich island community. She was charged and found guilty with 2 counts of hit and run and did no jail time but 1,000 community service hours. Her high-priced lawyer got her off the slew of other charges but in the civil suit she lost. Without revealing amounts, me and my LB bought new cars when we turned 17. I wanted a '86 Buick Grand National but parents freaked out and said no way. Settled on new Dodge Shadow. Brother got '95 Chrysler Concorde, still has, and had money for various other toys. He bought a Nintendo and a Sega Saturn later on with a ton of games. I upgraded to a HP 486 computer. Back in the day, EM never did apologize to me, my brother or family. During and after the trial she said nothing to my family. She only communicated through her lawyer to us, out of fear of Mama Bear, who wanted nothing more than to destroy her. The state we lived in was and still is very crooked and protective of rich people. TL. Dr. EM hits MENLB with her car, gets slap on the wrist because her family is rich and judges in my state are still crooked. Thank you. Next. So this was actually just a few days ago and it was very entertaining. My sister just got married to the man she has been with since I believe her freshman year of high school and they are both very happy and just the other day had their wedding. Now, Bill, brothers-in-law, has a mom who thought the wedding was going to be made the way she wanted, invite the people she wanted, and work the way she wanted. However, my sister and Bill were very stern with her that none of it was going to work out like that. Many months go by of this constant bickering between them to the point where they both decided that she wasn't going to be allowed at the wedding. My sister tells me the day of the wedding to stand out front and greet people in the foyer with the bouncer. They hired one who would have a list just in case. I was there to make the process go faster because I knew most of the people by face. I was told to not let EM in no matter what and I had every intention to do just that. And in true EM fashion she shows up thinking that she's allowed to be there. I stood there arguing with her that she wasn't allowed in. After a couple of minutes she left and apparently had walked around and found an open door to get in unnoticed. I walked inside because everyone had showed up, and as soon as they started saying their vows, EM decided to make a big scene by laughing hysterically and saying, out loud, that their marriage wouldn't last. I was furious. I told my sister and Bill that I would handle it because the bouncer had said that he wouldn't put his hands on anyone or force anyone to leave because he didn't know anyone. I on the other hand, knew the woman, and would happily force her out. I grabbed her by the arm and started dragging her towards the exit with her screeching like a banshee on the floor behind me. Some not so nice things were uttered from my mouth because I was very pissed that she deliberately went out of her way to do that. I was yelled at, and hit numerous times, but she was a small woman so it didn't hurt all that bad. Now they are happily married, and to my knowledge has tried to contact them, as well as coincidentally meet them in person after stalking them to apologize for her actions. They told me that they have repeatedly told her to fuck off, excuse my language, and to leave them alone / not contact them if she were to ever need anything. This woman has also told me, not asked me, to get them to change their minds and I told her I wouldn't listen because she tried to ruin such a big day for them. Thanks for reading, and yes I got my sister's okay to post this. Sorry if it's a little long. Thank you. Next. This is a little bit of a different entitled parent post that is about my annoying neighbors who just create chaos for those around them. So anyway, I live in a 4-bedroom apartment building which is very expensive for me and my family to live in along with a lot of other people who live in the same building. This is important for later. Anyway, I go to school for the day and my parents work a ton to support our family and so we have a nice life and we pay a lot of bills and such. At first when we moved in we had very nice neighbors who made just a little bit of noise during the day but not enough to be bothering to us. But then the lady upstairs who was so nice and quiet moved away. Then not even a day later comes entitled neighbors. As they moved in they didn't make a lot of noise but as they got comfortable they started getting noisier and noisier. They would start playing music at 5 in the morning to 12 at night. Then they would literally let their kids do whatever they wanted and would slam things so hard that it would sound like the roof would collapse. This went on for a month until my parents were furious. We went upstairs and told them as nice as we could to keep it down. But my mother who was furious yelled at them, keep your F.G. music down or so help me I will call the police and get your butt evoked from this place. Now this mad our neighbor pissed. She responded in a snotty voice, I live here and we aren't even making a lot of noise so maybe you should keep it down. Just after she said that her kid jumped off the couch and you could hear the loudest bang that I've ever heard. As well as them blasting music in the background. My parents were even more furious and called the cops. The cops came not even 5 minutes later and reprimanded the hell out of these people. And come to find out they pay less than half the amount that we pay. And to make it worse they would leave trash in front of my door. So later on as payback I put crap diapers in front of their door. By the way, they stunk. Fast forward a week I find out that everybody was complaining to management that the neighbors above us were being a holes. Then they got towed because they wouldn't pay for their parking spots and were towed with a bill of $500. That was when they got payback and was nearly removed from our apartments and stopped making all that noise. Thank you. Next. Sorry for any bad typing. This is my third time retyping this. Thanks a lot, Reddit. I am a native Norwegian, but I speak many other languages. Sorry for any spelling mistakes. ED. Entitled Dad. K. Ed's, kid. Me. F. My friend. I was with F in a restaurant in Germany. He is a German and I am a Norwegian who can speak German, so that's why we usually converse in. Anyways, we were at a table and ED and K were at the table too. As the restaurant was busy, I noticed that they had really southern USA accents, like something out of a television show. But I didn't care. I wasn't at a restaurant to listen to people conversation. After a bit, our food came and so did ED and K's. I was talking to F and eating my food when K started talking to me. He was around 5 years old, as far as I could see. So, I didn't want to be rude to such a young kid, so I talked with him about normal kid conversational things. F was polite too, but K was visibly confused over his accent. A little later, ED started talking to K again, and I kept talking to F. So far so good, but I didn't know what would happen. ED starts talking to me. ED, what are you saying? I don't want people saying bad things around K. Me, we weren't talking about anything bad. You shouldn't worry about it. ED, tell me what you were talking about. Me, no thanks. I went back to talking with F, but we only talked for about 20 seconds until I heard ED say hey. ED, did you hear Emmy? Me, what do you want? ED, tell Emmy what you said. Me, no. ED, stupid. Fine. Just talk in English so I know anyways. Now I thought, who is he to tell me to talk in English? This is Germany, for God's sake. Of course people will talk in German. I started talking to F again, but I just gave up trying to be normal and polite to ED. ED, dis you listen? I said speak in English. Me, no, listen. It's Germany, people speak German here. Is that enough, or do you need to go back to primary school? F was grinning and shouting in German to ED. ED looked like he would smash the table if he could. He stood up. I stood and looked down to him. He was way shorter than me. F. German. Ha. Yeah. What are you going to do? Ha. ED. Stop. I will punch you, I swear. F stood up. He is shorter than me but still way above ED. ED was yelling threats at us. But the real thing happened then. ED. Fine. You want to try? F. Hell yeah. Me. Hold on. WH. ED. Hit on 3. 1, 2, 3. Me. Oh god. ED fell back to the table. His face was covered with his hands, but I could see blood. F looked triumphant but shocked too. I went to K, who was shocked too. I calmed down K. K said to me he had felt that before. I asked him how, and he told me that ED had been harming him. I later told police, and ED was arrested. F was not told off for anything. Don't mess with the German guy. Edit. Thanks for reminder. Yes, the staff asked us to leave for causing a scene. Right after ED started yelling threats. But sadly, it didn't do anything. Sorry for missing this. As I said, I retyped this 3 times. I knew I was going to miss something. Sorry. Thank you kind stranger for the gold. Thank you. Next. I finally got enough karma to post this, so here goes. I heard this story secondhand from my mom while she was super drunk, so apologies if I get a few details wrong. To be entirely honest, I'm not 100% certain it's true, but then again my mom has always been a truthful drunk. Obligatory I'm on mobile, sorry about formatting issues warning. E.g., entitled Grandma S1, Sister 1, 5 at the time, S2. Sister 2, 2 at a time, mom and dad, take a guess. So, my paternal grandmother has never liked my mom. My mom had S1 from another marriage when she married my dad, which of course painted her as a slutty bitch to EG. S2 was born less than a year after my parents got married, and EG threw a hissy fit because she was convinced my mom was trapping my dad by having kids with him. Dad fought with EG about it, especially after EG commented on S2's super red hair, saying, Are you sure she's Dad? S. Keep in mind that aside from her hair and eyes, S2 looks exactly like my dad. Same face shape, chin, nose, etc. The red hair is from my mom's Irish father, who died when my mom was little. My parents refused to talk to EG for months after this, and EG was forbidden from babysitting. My maternal grandparents, mom's mother and stepfather, were awesome at helping out with us kids anyway, so it's not like they needed EG. 2 years later, I was born, looking mostly like my mom but very obviously having my dad's chin and ears. EG threw yet another fit, convinced my mom was trapping my dad by having kids that probably weren't his anyway, but of course we went and saw her anyway after I got out of the NICU. I was born about a month and a half early. According to my mom, EG was very pleasant at first during the visit. S1 and S2 went down for a nap and EG talked to my parents for a while. Dad had stayed up all night driving, so he also conked out on the couch, leaving me and my mom with EG. S2 comes out needing help going to the bathroom, as she was right in the middle of potty training and couldn't do it on her own yet, and EG offers to hold me while mom took care of the situation. S2 went back to sleep and mom came back out to EG trying to smother me with her hand. EG tried to play it off, like OP had something on her face and I was trying to wipe it off, but mom was having none of it. She woke my dad and sisters up and, after explaining what happened to my dad, started getting ready to leave. EG threw a tantrum about how mom was trapping dad with us kids, and how mom wasn't good enough for her precious angel, and that she was only trying to do what was best for dad. According to my mom, EG also said, it's not like OP was going to live long anyway. Everyone knows preemies don't last. To which my dad started fighting with EG before my mom got everyone out of there. My family has had little to no contact with EG since that day, and neither of my little brothers have ever met her. As for my mom trapping my dad with kids, that didn't work out anyway because he walked out when I was 15ish. As far as I know, charges were never pressed, but I'm sure EG was extremely happy the day it came to light that dad took after her shithole nature, which is a story for another time. Anyhow, thanks for reading if you made it this far. As a retail veteran, I have plenty more entitled parent stories, but again, those are stories for another time. Thank you. Next. TL. Doctor at bottom. This happened in the summer of 2016. I had lost my job with an oil company back in the previous February and wasn't in the mood to find work. I had plenty of money to burn as the pay was pretty good at that job. I have been living in the same dingy motel, on and off, for the last 7 years now and haven't been able to find a better place to live. I thought I had a great opportunity to move into a new place and have 2 roommates who I believed would be trustworthy. In May of 2016, one of the, now former, employees at the motel I live at has a son whom we'll call Devin. Devin was a good guy but usually too nice for his own good. This will play in later. Now I need to mention that my stepdad and half-brother moved to this town I currently live in a little while before I did. My stepdad gave Devin a proposal. The two of them, along with my half-brother's girlfriend and her mom, we'll call her Katie, would be moving to the other side of the state. They would let him live inside their trailer rent-free for the first 3 months after they move out if he cleaned the place up to their specifications and stored away whatever items they wanted to keep. Devin brought the proposal and asked me if I wanted to be roommates with him. I said yes and we began to clean the disgusting hoarder house. Yes, it was a hoarder house and Katie wanted us to save about damn near everything that wasn't shattered into 100 pieces. So a few weeks go by and we are making great progress. Meanwhile over at the motel, an Karen, her failed abortion of a husband Derek and their entitled crotch goblin, EK, are getting kicked out due to consistent late payments on rent. Devin, being the sucker he was, took pity on them and, without saying anything to me first, invites them to stay at the trailer, effectively kicking me out. Also, Devin took it upon himself to call Katie and let her know what was happening. I don't know what they said exactly, but he somehow managed to convince her that they deserved to be living there more than me even though I put in a good chunk of work to get that place cleaned. Then for God knows what reason, Katie decides she doesn't want me living there at all anyway. Now I am just pissed off and angry but there was nothing I could do about it. Devin eventually did come to regret taking them in as they were one big family of cum stains. Karen and Derek could have bought a tent and camped out in the yard. Where I live this is quite common as rent can be expensive, especially in the summertime when we get a lot of tourists, but instead were more interested in their personal pleasures. Aside from buying DVDs and Xbox games, these two also spent their money on sex toys. They don't do too much for their daughter and overall just ignore or pay no mind to her, but don't feel too sorry for her yet because she is just as bad as them. Once July rode around, the 3-month rent-free deal was up and now Devin had to start collecting rent from Karen and Derek. They, and surprisingly, would come up with lame excuses like I get my check next week or I need it for my daughter or whatever bullshit they could come up with. This went on for a couple months and the final straw came when the EK decided to bring home 2 friends she made to the trailer around 11 PM when Devin was asleep. The way I heard it was the 2 kids that EK let install his PS4, all of his games and stole about $2,000 worth of pot from one of his off-limits drawers. Apparently while EK was attempting to act innocent trying to befriend Devin, she was making mental notes of all the stuff he had of large value. Then that night she brought 2 kids who were probably a few years older than her to his house and robbed him of all the aforementioned stuff plus more. The police were but nothing came of it as the cops are as useless as a fifth wheel on a wagon. Karen defended her daughter's actions saying she didn't know any better and that you should have kept a better eye on your own things anyway. You deserve to get robbed. Devin finally had enough of them and had to get a formal eviction notice to get them to leave. The last I heard of them, they moved to some town in Oregon. Wonder what poor sobs they're screwing over now. TL. Dr. Old friend of mine chooses to allow entitled parents to live his trailer over the guy who helped him make it livable again. Me. Thank you. Next. So this happened last summer and I was reminded of it today. First some background. My boyfriend, 23, and I, 21, lived in my mother's house. I say in and not with because after she kicked out my abusive ex-stepfather, she ended up living with him and my 8-year-old brother, but told everyone she was still living home with us and my other brother. So the only time I saw her home was if she needed money or was having an affair. Now on to the story. So last summer she stopped by and asked if I wanted to go get our nails done. I was a bit hesitant and I had work in a few hours. She reassured me we were just getting pedicures and she'd have me back in time for me to get ready for work. An hour and a half before my shift started she decided she needs her fingers touched up. She has acrylics tips on, those fake nails. They take at least an hour to do. Now it's 30 minutes before my shift. I have already messaged my boyfriend to grab everything I need for work and my uniform because I will need to change there. I'm beyond pissed and telling my mother I'm taking her keys and driving myself home because I have work. She gasps and says something along this. All I wanted to do is spend time with you. I never get to see you and you never want to spend time with me. Is it so bad that I want to do something nice with my daughter? I was still late to work. She didn't care. She left after she dropped me back home and asked me to clean the house because it looked disgusting. It was gross because we were taking care of 3 older foster cats that she volunteered to take care of but just left them with us. And that's on top of the other 3 cats we've had since I was young.